what is the one headline each of you predict that we will see in 2024? David Brown, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I think when if we do this show next year, I think it's going to be a headline along the lines of bloodbath to boom. I think this holiday season we're going to see a bloodbath in retail. I think there's going to be a lot of retailers going to be pushed over the edge, and then I see through 24, right? The Fed held rates. They've announced potentially 3 cuts.
Right.
Easing monetary policy. I think you'll see consumers start spending again. I expect that Chinese consumer on the high end to come back, which has been missing the last 2 or 3 years. So I think by the end of next year, I think there's a good chance you see retail booming again. So to me, it's going to be a bloodbath to boom.
Interesting point. And what are your thoughts on tomorrow's headlines today?
So I think we're going to see retailers stop locking up product and start making permanent changes to stores. I think that we're just like, especially with the news that I mentioned earlier about like what's really happening. It's not just organized retail crime that's responsible for the theft that we're seeing in stores. And it's just not, I think customers are going to have enough of it. They don't want to be waiting for stuff to get unlocked, waiting that average of 2 to 3 minutes every time they want to purchase something. So I think we start to see retailers making more investments in how do we make this a simpler shopping experience, from the very bare minimum of what we saw Giant Eagle do, where they're just like having an entrance to a store and an exit of a store to try to mitigate some of that theft that's happening, or just keep a closer eye on it, all the way through to investing more significantly in checkout free options for their stores.
Great one. Love to see that for sure. David Ritter.
So I'm a little bit contrarian to David Brown on this one. I think we're going to see retailers struggle in 24, and I hate to say this at the holiday season. So I think we're going to continue to see belt tightening. I think some of the things that David mentioned are true, but I think they tend to have a longer lead time. So for 24, I guess, I think we're going to continue to see retailers really struggle. I think we'll see a decreased discretionary spending, more trading down, consolidation of trips. But I think that will lead to blurring of channel lines and really fighting for traffic. So I think some of the traditional way we think about competition, like I think you're seeing grocers compete with drug, compete with discount, because as those trips consolidate, there's just not that many out there. So every trip's going to really matter from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting too, especially since we don't really understand the lag effect of the Fed's actions too, necessarily, in terms of how long they all take to see the benefits or the drawbacks from them too. That makes me think more about mine as well. So mine is actually, given the economic climate in the past year, and then David, if what you say about next year is correct, I think that it plays into this as well. I think you're going to see a major C-suite shakeup at Target, because no matter how you slice it, the results this year have been pretty aberrational. And Cornell's getting up in age too. We don't know how many years he's got left. The leadership team underneath him is really green. They lost their COO, John Mulligan, who was kind of the glue that held the whole thing together. So, and honestly, I've said this before, but where's the growth? I don't know where the growth's coming from. I don't know where they're thinking it's going to come from. They haven't announced anything publicly that will have any material impact on growth in the long run. So I do wonder, if things don't start to improve, do heads start to roll? But yeah, that's kind of my take. And